Alright, welcome back. You might have noticed that in the previous video I talked about the worst 5G network in the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus. Anyway, it was quite an outrageous statement, and so I thought I could come and shed light in what we were doing in that previous video. Now, the idea wasn't to insinuate that the S10 I worked on, or the S10 Plus in particular, has the worst 5G network. But then for that particular phone, it was the worst idea for the client to turn on the 5G signal in their antenna. But before I tackle why that was the case, let me just brief you on the advantages that 5G tends to have over 4G, because 4G is the next comparable thing. Now, one, I think you might notice that the 5G has a very low latency. Latency is the delay or time it takes basically between you requesting for a search query and it giving you back results, in which 5G just does it in under 2 milliseconds, while 4G will go anywhere between 60 and 98 milliseconds. The other thing that we notice at 5G that is beneficial is the download speeds. Basically, that is the speed at which a file, let us say if you wanted a movie, would be completely downloaded onto your device. In other words, when you look at 5G literally goes up to 20 gigabits per second. I mean, when we divide that 20 by 8, we are getting roughly 2.5. That is basically 2.5 GBs every second. So you can imagine downloading a 2.5 GB movie in just 1 second. That's the benefit that 5G would offer you theoretically when downloading. And then the other thing what we would look at is which is not much of a benefit to me, is that normally 5G sort of has small cells, like small cells. I don't know, when you like have a 5G antenna there, a 5G there, so they tend to create a smaller cell. Basically, this is normally good for those guys who are sort of like doing tracking of devices, but to the end user, that means your area is most likely not to have 5G, seeing that you need very many masts to actually be within good reception of 5G. In other words, it's not something I see really there's a good advantage to. And actually this actually shows greater disadvantage in having smaller cells. In other words, antennas that have to be very near each other. The other disadvantage is that where a 4G cell would accommodate about 200 to 400 users, this 5G will just be looking at about 100 users. Okay, this was a prank. Don't mind me. Actually, 5G accommodates more users per cell, but pardon that, I didn't intend it. But anyway, going back to the repair we did much earlier, we noticed that despite 5G having these good advantages and also accommodates far more users than 4G per cell, the fact that you need very many masts, let me call them masts, like that are sort of like distributing the signal to you, so as to at least be within reach of each, it makes it very expensive for telecommunication companies, more so in Africa, where its applications are not yet very apparent, to find it difficult to roll it out. So I find that where I am, which is Uganda, you find that not every area has 5G rolled out, and if you are able to detect 5G, it's mostly from a very distant access point, like antenna, very distant. So in the end, you find that much as 5G should be fast, you find you're getting very few bars to even appreciate that download speed, which is ridiculous. So in that video, what we did was basically, since we are cognizant or aware that 4G coverage has reached greater places, much as even it in itself is not that much, we decided to default it to 4G, such that she can get more signals with which to work. But that's it for now. Please do hit the subscribe button. So in a sense, this has ultimately been a 5G versus 4G in your area. So we are literally comparing 5G and 4G in your location, and which one would be wise for you to set to. Now for me, where I am, and best even on mobile usage that I use it, I drop mine to 3G because I am mostly always just sending texts on WhatsApp and occasionally browsing and doing Google searches. So never am I downloading. So it becomes redundant to turn on the 4G or 5G chip on top of the others below it. So anyway, before you rush to think you need 5G, first be sure that the service provider in your area actually is capable of providing you that 5G. So it's pointless having a 5G enabled phone, which probably you won't want to use for 3 years before even 5G ever gets into your location, and you're paying a heavy amount, a lot of money to have it in the palm of your hands. Anyway, if you're new here, please do hit the subscribe button, and if it's the first time, feel free to leave a comment, because it's our hope that we shall